Well, hello once again, and another very warm welcome back to my classic dirt bike TV channel, and a very special mention here first to all the brand new subscribers who have recently signed up to my channel in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So welcome aboard, and I do hope you continue to enjoy the kind of content that I'm posting here on my YouTube channel. Now, as I've said in previous videos, we're gradually getting near the end of another racing season here in Scotland, in fact in the UK for that matter. And personally for myself, we only have another one race event left to cover, and that will of course be the Scottish Classic Motorcycle Racing Club's Round 5 event, which will be held at Whitekirk in East Linton near Edinburgh on the 3rd of October. And of course you can see all of the bikes and of course all of the racing from that event right here on my channel. Now, of course, between now and through the winter, we will be continuing to give you the best of old classic dirt bikes, and we're going to continue that theme right here, right now, with another look at a bike from the Terry Pickering classic dirt bike collection. And this bike that we're going to have a look at now is Terry's 1983 250 Italian-made Beta. Now, this featured bike of Terry's is another machine that he bought from another classic dirt bike dealer some time ago, and although the machine was in very good original condition, Terry did tell me that some light restoration had taken place to get the bike into this pristine condition. Now, the Italian-based Beta company were formed way back in 1904 in Florence in Italy, where they originally began by building bicycles, although their name was later changed to Beta Motors because of the growing development for motorised transport after World War II. Now, the original Beta company was founded by Enzo Bianchi and Arrigo Tosi, which is how the name Beta was actually formed, by using the first letters of both owners' names to make the company's title. Now, they built their first motorcycle in 1948, which was called the Servo 48, which was a small two-stroke street bike that used a rubberized roller that acted directly onto the rear tyre, and it also had a chain for starting and final drive. Now, in the 1960s, Beta then designed and built their very own two-stroke motors, and during the 1970s they would then build their first off-road dirt bikes aimed primarily at the enduro and motocross markets. Now, our featured model here is, I think, a 1983 bike, because when Terry first bought the machine, he was unsure if it was a 1980 or even a 1981 bike, but with some research and a little bit of information from a friend who has an identical bike to this, we're almost pretty sure that this is a 1983 example. Now, back in 1983, you could either purchase a twin shock or, in our case, a more modern monoshock version of this bike direct from the Beta factory, and they also sold a version that had a new style hydraulic front disc brake, although as you can see ours still has the older drum brake on the front. Now, by all accounts, these 250 Beta two-stroke motors were very good power plants, and they produced a decent amount of power and were quite reliable for a fully blown motocross motor, although at this point Beta never actually made many motocross models, because in the later 1980s and 1990s they were better known for making some of the world's best trials machines, and even in 2021 they're now building some of the best European trials and motocross bikes, which are hugely popular with the off-road fraternity. Now, the engine is a reed valve intake motor and not your run-of-the-mill piston port engine, and it has what looks like a big Amol carburetor to feed it with its fuel. Now, I'm not exactly 100% sure here which model of Amol carburetors actually fitted but it certainly looks quite adequate to feed that 250 motor with all the gas it requires. Now the air filter again is your normal foam filter, which sits inside this plastic airbox and is accessible by removing these 4 screws on the outside of this access plate. Now the air intake is by way of this little slit on the outside of the panel. Now when it came to the bike's front suspension, these forks were a bit of a mystery for me, and they certainly look like they could be a pair of Italian Marzoccis, because I do know that many of these Italian motocross manufacturers did buy in parts from other Italian companies to fit to their bikes, although again I'm not entirely sure what this braking logo on the fork leg is all about, but I suspect it's some kind of damping suspension system. Now again, the older style drum brakes on this 1983 model, although as I mentioned, you could still buy this bike with the more modern hydraulic disc brake if that's what you preferred. When it came to the bike's rear suspension, I think this is almost certainly a white power monoshock unit with that remote gas reservoir, because I do know that many of these 1980s beta machines were fitted with these WP systems at the factory back in the day. Now again, this rear shock was connected by way of a linkage to these 2 drop-down arms that were bolted directly onto the bike's rear swing arm. But one of the strange things for me on these betas were these air scoops that were fitted just underneath the fuel tank, which were obviously there to direct airflow onto the motor, although this one goes directly onto the exhaust, which is quite unusual. But these are the kind of things that are usually fitted to a water-cooled motor to direct air into the bike's radiator, but maybe this was just a test bed for a newer model in the line. Although I can certainly understand why they had one fitted at this left-hand side of the bike with the air being directed straight onto the motor, but maybe it's a cosmetic thing that the bike would maybe look odd with just a scoop on one side. Now the bike's rear swing arm is a simple box section alloy unit, which is in keeping in line with many of the other European manufacturers of their time, who were by now switching from the heavier steel-based arms to these lighter and some would even maybe say stronger alloy parts. Now whether the bike's wheels are the originals I'm not really sure, but they are Norwegian built Nordisk alloy rims with a pair of Metzler motocross tyres fitted onto them. Now again, a plastic fuel tank, as you would expect on a 1983 machine, as by this time there were very few off-roaders still using steel or alloy fuel cells on their bikes, and plastic was quickly becoming the new material of choice for making fuel tanks, side panels and mudguards for all manner of enduro and motocross race bikes of the 1980s and 90s. Now I'm not sure if our particular 250 Beta's seen much action in its life, but judging by this exhaust expansion chamber, it certainly looks like as fresh as the day it was made, and it's free from any dings or dents or any stone damage. But then again, the bike has had some cosmetic restoration done, and this refurbished pipe could of course be part of it. Now the exhaust tailpipe is an Italian made SEM part, and of course chrome plated, just to add that little bit of bling to the bike, because of course it wouldn't be an Italian bike if it wasn't stylish, would it? Now, I'm pretty sure that all of the bike's controls would be locally produced parts from Tomaselli, who manufactured all manner of motorcycle gassers and other small parts for these Italian race bikes. Now, the control cables are called Terry cables, which are of course nothing to do with the bike's owner, you understand, but Terry cables are an American-based company in California who manufacture all manner of parts for motorcycles, ATVs and the aerospace industry. But Beta and many of the other smaller Italian bike builders did tend to use locally sourced motorcycle parts whenever it was possible, and this actual gasser could quite easily be another Tomaselli product. Now, as I mentioned before, these wheels are Norwegian manufactured Nordisk alloy rims, although these certainly look quite new, and once again could have been replaced as part of the light refurbishment that took place on the bike prior to Terry purchasing it. And again, the bike's rear wheel also looks like it could have been through that very same refurb process with these brand new spokes and that refurbished hub. But whether this bike's original or not, or whether it's even been restored during its lifetime, there's certainly no escaping the fact that this is another cracking looking Italian stallion, and as you're no doubt aware, you just can't beat the Italians when it comes to building a motorcycle with style and pizzazz, and this example of Terry's is yet another rare gem from our motocross past, because this is a bike that you just don't see anymore, even in private collections. And as I said, this is just another of the motocross timepieces that Terry has in his fantastic museum of vintage dirt bikes, and we will of course feature further examples in future postings here on Classic Dirt Bike TV. Well, I do hope you enjoyed that quite brief look around Terry Pickering's 1983 Italian-made Beta 250. Quite a rare machine, and certainly a bike that you never see at classic and vintage race events these days. And this of course is just one of the many machines that we'll be featuring from Terry's collection throughout the winter. So if you've not already done it, then I do hope you will consider subscribing to my channel in order that you don't miss out on any future video postings. Okay, coming up next on my channel, we will be taking a look at this quite nice looking twin shock JBR 500 Honda. Now, this bike belongs to Scottish twin shock rider Rick Caldwell, so we'll be taking a look at Rick's bike in another video posting, which will be coming up very soon here on my channel. So until the next time, of course, everybody continue to keep safe and well riding those old vintage and classic race bikes, until we all get back together once again to talk about more vintage iron right here on your favourite Classic Dirt Bike TV channel.